Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon to everyone who's joined our webinar this afternoon. Thank you for taking out the time to join us. I'd like to introduce to you our speaker for today, Mrs. Mehreen Mia Kasimji, who is also the CEO and founder of the MEA company. Mehreen is also an international motivational speaker and empowerment specialist. Mehreen, thank you.
Jazakallah so much, Amina. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and hello to everybody. Can everybody hear me well? Just give me a thumbs up or something.
Yeah, it's
Amina,
fine.
can you hear?
I can hear you. You can go ahead.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so today, what we said we're going to talk about is perception and perspective, and it's linked to empowerment. And this is something that's very key and crucial for me, especially in the experiences that I've had thus far. And it's purely because it's two little words that have huge impact if you think you want to become empowered. So the first thing we need to do is obviously understand what this means. It's platonic for many people, but I think it's important to grasp what the concepts are. So when we talk of perception, we're talking about your understanding or your interpretation of people, your interpretation of situations, your mental impression literally of what is happening around you. When you're talking about perspectives, you're talking about your angle of things. You're talking about your view on a specific aspect. So you have the perception of something which creates your perspective on that matter. Now, the reason why we need to really understand this is because this affects how we interact with people. This helps us to develop ourselves even further. And another key factor, which is important for empowerment, is that you have done for the Zenobia. Is this person speaking to me? Okay, sorry about that. So what this does is, why we need to really understand this concept of perception and perspective is because it helps to enhance us from within. It helps us in how we interact with people. And it also creates this level of awareness, which is crucial for us when we want to empower ourselves. So this conscious awareness of who you are, what your perceptions are, what is your perspective on certain things, is very important in order for you to know what about your perceptions, what about your perspectives need to change so that you can empower yourself from within you. Now remember, when you have a perception on something, most of the time it's actually a perception that you have based on experiential, it's your background, it's where you come from. So it's your experiences that dictate what your perceptions are today. It's where you probably lived that creates that. And perception is very, very closely linked to what is your sensory perception on things. So for example, if you think of a sound, if you think of a smell, lots of us, for example, would like the smell of freshly baked bread. It reminds us of grand's home or mom's home, or it just brings back a memory. So we grew up with this, so we got into this perception of we love the smell of freshly baked bread. Then you, of course, have the sound. If you think of music, if you think of literal sounds, whether it's the bird or whether it's, whatever it may be, some would like certain sounds and some don't. It can either be because you come from a specific frame of mind or thought process or background or experience that's got you to get to a point where you fancy this and you create this perception of it that you really enjoy. So those are just two hypothetical examples that you can think of when you want to actually look for what your perception is about something. The problem that we have and that comes in is as we grow older, as we develop who we are and we go out there, this applies to even our children. They and us actually start to perceive things differently. And what happens when that happens? When you start to perceive something in a different light, what happens to you? Are you rejected because your change in perception is there, because it's supposed to be a specific way and the norm was set in that way? That's where the crux of the problems come in with many people who try to empower themselves. It's because we need to actually change the perspective. We need to try and change our perception, but it's not accepted by others because for some reason they stagnate in what their perceptions are. I'm going to use an analogy, and many people who attend lots of my workshops or lectures, they know I love analogies, because with an analogy, you're able to actually resonate with what I'm saying, and it takes the message across to you quicker, and then the picture stays with you, and then you're able to relay the message across. And that's the catalyst effect we want to have when we try and help other people. So the analogy I'm going to use is that of breakfast. And I'm talking about a buffet breakfast at the end of the day, but let's just talk breakfast generally. Um, some people would like breakfast to be toast with fried eggs and a sausage. Simple. Some people would really love breakfast to be a curry with rice and maybe even a roti. Another would like breakfast to be a glass of orange juice with a muffin and a cereal. There's three different kinds of people, three different loves and perspectives on what breakfast needs to be like. So here's the question. Which of those breakfasts is the correct one? There is no correct one. Now think about when you have to go to a hotel, whether it's international, whether it's local, or you go anywhere for that matter, and they're catering for breakfast. Do they have only a specific one, or do they not? Sister Amina, can you hear me?
We can hear you. We just lost you for a little while, but it's fine now.
Okay, all right. Sorry, I'm not too sure what's going on with the network. But we were talking about the breakfast, and we gave the three scenarios of who likes what, and we said when we go to a hotel, they're actually catering for all three, if not more. Now, when you're there and you're there to get your breakfast, which is what you prefer to have, and there's this buffet of breakfasts, are you somebody who goes to the chef and says, you're not allowed to make those eggs and sausages for them because you're only supposed to make curry for me, so they must like curry? You don't do that. You're actually okay because you're tolerant of the fact that somebody else has a different perspective and their perceptions about what breakfast needs to be is different, and you're okay with that. So why can't we apply the same principle and the same philosophy to life itself? To become more tolerant of firstly ourselves and what we perceive and accept that what we like is what we like, but also accept that other people's perceptions are just as good and just as important. Now, the problem that we have is if you at this buffet and there's all these different breakfasts and you're somebody who is privy to only a specific kind and you like only the toast with the tea and the fried egg, but you're noticing that that curry is looking so appealing to you to have for breakfast as well, even though it's the morning, could you not try the curry at that moment and see whether it really does fancy you or not? And if you do and you do like it, does that not maybe change your perception on what you think or what you pruned yourself to believe the breakfast needs to be like? And when you change your perception at that point, your whole perspective on breakfast and a must for breakfast has now changed. That is the crux of you empowering yourself and becoming aware of what is your perspective on certain things. What are your perceptions about certain things? And how do I need to change them so that I can better myself? So every time we're all going to start looking for breakfast, we're all going to start thinking about this, and we're going to think about, okay, we need to be more tolerant, and we're going to learn about perspectives and perceptions. So that's a good thing. So don't forget, this is what that analogy of the breakfast teaches you. There's tolerance levels for everything, and everyone has different perspectives, and no one specific one is the perfect one. But here's where the spanner gets thrown into the works. Let's just say something happens, and you have this constant talk to yourself that, you know, this children just don't listen to me. My spouse is just, he doesn't care what I think. Nobody is bothering about how much of effort I'm giving into everything every day. You just have these things that happen to you and it's negatively impacting you because you're feeling so low and so bad about yourself. Can you see that that perspective that you're having about how each of those people are thinking and feeling is actually about other people who are outside of you? Your perception of what they are feeling is what is making you feel so down. But ask yourself, is my perception of them right? Or is my perception merely what I made my perception out to be? Here's what we do, especially us women. We tend to feel that if I do A, B, and C for them, then they will feel A, B, and C back for me, and they will do A, B, and C back for me. So when the A, B, and C is not done back towards me because of what I've done, I then go into this mode of they don't appreciate me. They don't feel what I'm doing for them is good enough. I am not good enough. And then the self-talk that is so negative starts to compound itself inside you. And then what happens? That compounding of negativity just resonates with you and it makes you actually feel sick. When you realize that you yourself have to concentrate on you, why are you doing things? Right now, whoever is listening, ask yourself your questions. Ask yourself, am I even aware? What is my perception on things? What is my perception on life? What is my perception about me and my circumstance at the moment? What are my perspectives about how things are going for me at the moment? What about these things are so negative for me that I think I need to change them? What should my perspective be on certain things that I can maybe help to change, that I feel better about me and then others people around me would feel better as well? These are questions that you need to ask yourself, and the brutal honesty in your answers, it's what's crucial for you to actually empower you as a self. So this is why this concept of perception, this concept of perspective is so crucial, because you need to be aware firstly of what are your,
Mm,
in order to be tolerant and understand what
mm,
are others. Because the next very, very important question is, can I influence somebody else's perspective? Can I change somebody else's perspective about something? And that's where majority of the people sit and have problems, is because we want someone else's perception of us or what we do or what we say to validate a feeling that we have. So can you do that? Of course you can. People do it on a daily basis. But here's where you need to pause. And you need to understand that what you perceive, again, I'm going to reiterate, what you perceive is your perception. And your perspective is literally the lens that you're using to view the world and view your circumstance and view your situation that's happening around you. So when you want to try and change somebody else's perspective, they too have the same lens that they're using to view you. So the first thing for you to do is ask yourself, if I'm perceiving me in a specific way, how am I creating a perception of myself to them that will make them want to even acknowledge and want to listen to what I have to say to change their own? The self change is important for you to change anything else around you. When I have to train and I teach this empowerment, the one thing I am so focal on is the fact that you have got to be aware of you first. You have got to try and change what's wrong about you first. There's no wrong that cannot be made right about you. And this mentality of many out there who feel if women have to become empowered, they're going to be disrespectful. If women have to become empowered, then they're going to lose their stances, their roles that they have to be. A woman has so many roles that she caters for on a daily basis. We wake up, we're the wife, we're the daughter, we're the sister, we're businesswomen. We do whatever we need to do and we get through an entire day. In each of those roles, we fulfill specific duties. But to make those decisions that make other people's lives easier, we have certain perceptions on certain things. We have certain perspectives on certain things. The questions we have to ask ourselves to empower ourselves is, is this perception that I have actually others? Because is to lose us. We tend to want to rather focus on making everyone else pleased with us because they set the standard for how some things need to be. So ask yourself again, is your perspective important? Because remember, the respect and tolerance of other people's perspectives is key. It is very key. But the respect for you as a self, the respect for your own perception and your own perspectives on things, that is paramount. And to know what they are, you have to be aware of them to know what you have to change. Remember, us in those roles that we play every day as women, we encounter so many different things. We have drama continuously. On some days, you'd be on your way and you'd have a flat tire. You'd have a really bad time when somebody that you're trying to talk to just doesn't grasp your message. The kids just don't do what you instruct them to do. Things don't happen according to, and the day just compounds itself into this negativity. And then you start to wonder, what's going on with me? And that the perception that you have of yourself in that day becomes so negative, and it drains you of your energy, that it becomes so bad that even when people are around you, you can't even find a stench of positiveness to give off of yourself. Why? Because we don't get ourselves away from it and realize it's not me. It's the circumstance outside of me. When someone is doing something negative to you, it is them and their actions. You can only control your reaction to what they are doing. So throughout lockdown, throughout every lecture I teach and I train, remember, I can't control others. I can't control what somebody else is saying. I can't control what somebody else is doing. I can't control what somebody else will think about me. I can't control what somebody else is going to say about me. I can control me. I can control my reaction to whatever is thrown at me. But am I prepared with my perspectives and how that needs to happen? So when I want to train you, and when you train yourself to be self-empowered, and you become so aware of what your perspectives are and you change them, it doesn't have to alter the role that you play. If anything, it has to benefit you. It benefits you as a woman. It benefits you as the mother. It benefits you as the wife, as the daughter, as the sister. And when they all around you start to feel and see that that benefit for you is so good, they feel that benefit for themselves. There is no break. There is no, I can't do this. So remember that the key for everything regarding empowerment, self-empowerment, self-development, your growth, is to be aware, what is your perception on stuff? What is your perspective on things? What is your take? What is your lens showing you, and how are you taking? There's a lot that in this little time. And what I normally would do over a full day workshop, I'm trying to put into half an hour. But the goal of the whole thing is, I want you to understand, when you have a compounding effect of negativity, there's a saying that goes, the problem is not the problem. The problem is sometimes your attitude to the problem. And that is key, because you need to understand it's outside of you. You can take control of whatever the problem is, and you can break it down so that you can react to it with a positive outcome for you and others around you. That's when self-empowerment and empowerment teaches you to do. But to do that, you have to create this awareness of what am I and how am I perceiving things. So I'm going to share with you quickly, in all of my experiences so far, and with the workshops and stuff, you meet lots of people, especially women, and children too. And it's amazing how much we learn from children and their perspectives on things. The sad thing for us is our children have perspectives about things we don't even know about. And if you're listening to me and you're a mother, do you know what your child's perception is on certain things? You might know what they like to eat. You might know what they don't like, what sounds they like, what they might. But do you know what their perceptions are about certain aspects of life? Do you know what their perspective is on certain things? Or is your environment such that there's a perspective on something and that's how everybody has to just have the same perspective? Is everybody's change in perspective respected? These are things that we need to become aware of, because when I speak to children, most often, kids have perspectives about things that their parents are not aware of. And it's amazing the intellect that they have behind those perspectives. So if they are privy to having their own perspectives as they're growing up, you yourself, in your frame of mind, are able to also address what yours are to change it for your benefit. So in all of these experiences I've had with the mothers, with the children, with women globally, that you come up with a couple of instances where you try and figure out how is it that they can change, what is it that they can do to help themselves. So I'm gonna try and give you one or two of my techniques that work. They worked for me, and for me, why I do what I do is because I give off and I live the example. So I know that these work because they worked for me. And what I've implemented it with other people, it worked for them. So I'm going to relay one or two of them for you. And you need to remember that these are tips and these are steps that you can take, but only if you do them honestly with yourself. And remember, empowering yourself is all about what you do for yourself on a daily basis. Now, when we're talking about the perspectives and the perceptions, We're talking about how to change them. What can I do to become different or see the positiveness in what I'm going through? So the first thing that happens is, remember we spoke about all these negatives that impact us, all these negatives that compound sometimes even on a daily basis. What do you do about that? The first thing I think we need to all learn to do is distance yourself from this negativity. Distance yourself from it and try and look at it from a distance. Because if something is with you, and I say to you, okay, you know what, you need a timeout. You need to probably go and just have tea with somebody and go and just, have a few minutes to yourself and talk to someone. Let's just say we do that. And you take 5 or 10 minutes and you say, I'm going to go and sit with so and so, and I'm going to have a cup of tea. But you actually wanting to do this, your intent to do it is to change your perception now of this negative thing that's hurting you. And you go and you sit with this person and you sit and have a cup of tea. And that person feels, oh, yay, she's sitting with me. I can actually share my problems. And then this person compounds what you are going through with whatever their difficulties are. Human nature has it that such that we will then feel for them. We would empathize. What you felt was difficult for you is now compounded by you feeling the difficulties of the next person. But when you negative yourself, you distance yourself from the negativity. When you negatives that are happening around us, I then realize I can take control of this negative situation and I can deal with it. That is that's a whole lot of steps in itself, but that's the first thing is if you're aware that something is negative for you, distance yourself from it and try and say to yourself, it's outside of me. What can I do to make it better? That's the first thing. The second very important key point or tip I'd like to give all of you is I like to think of each of us as a computer, and we program ourselves all the time. Ask yourself and challenge yourself when you want to empower yourself and grow yourself, develop yourself. Ask yourself, when I'm talking about my perspectives and my perception, right now, what am I giving myself? What is my mental input into my program? What is my emotional input into my program? So every time I'm programming myself with my perceptions and my perspectives, what exactly is that? Do I need to change my input for my programming to become better? Do I need to change my software, or do I need to press that Control Alt Delete button? It's up to you, but you need to be honest with yourself to know what about you needs to change, be aware of it, consciously aware of it, and then see, what am I putting in there? What is my input? What is my mental input? What is my emotional input that is making me feel in this specific way? And what is it that is impacting and programming me to have this kind of a perception? And what can I change? And what do I need to do to change that perception and my perspective so that it betters me and betters those around me? So I gave you two tips so far. The one was to distance yourself from the negativity, and the second one was where you change your input and you become more aware of what it is that you're putting into yourself. The other thing that I try and train people to do is to really manage your expectation level of others. Because a lot of us really live by the standards and the norms that are set outside of us. And we live to conform to those. We forget that we can actually create our own. And when that happens, we get programmed, literally, to have to feel and think that if I do this, then that will happen. If I don't do this, then that may not happen. Or if I do this, that won't happen. So it's always about the after effect. And we worry so much about that we forget what is it doing to us if we have to ever do it at all. So manage your expectation level. If after this whole lockdown we're on level 1, and I'm wanting to go and embrace my mom and dad because I haven't seen them for the past 6 months, I am supposed to be feeling and saying to myself, Mehreen, you're going to see your mom and dad, and you're going to feel so good to hug them and give them love and give them your attention and to just see them smile. Okay, I'm doing this because I missed them. I'm doing this because I love them. What happens when I walk in there and they don't smile? I created this expectation of myself being in that environment, and then I don't get the warmth and the reception that I'm supposed to get. I created that expectation for myself. Why? I ought to have just said to myself, you know what? You've missed them, you love them, you go and see them, and you're going to feel good after that. The bonus for you is if they give you the best reception ever. But it's not just your parents, anybody for that matter. Don't create an expectation of others because of something you're doing. Manage your expectation levels to understand what can you expect, and can you expect anything at all. Don't expect what you might not get. Don't do that. Try and really decipher, am I doing this for me? What do I want to gain for me from it? And it's not what others will do because of what I'm doing. It's what am I going to feel for me? How is it going to grow me? That's where we have to sit. So manage your expectations better. There's another, something comes to mind quickly, and that is um, sometimes when things go wrong, sometimes when perspectives are bad, and you're starting to view things in a negative light continuously, you start to think, well, um, how is this going to even help me if I change it? The ideal for you is when something is happening that's really difficult at the moment, try and see, if I change my perspective on this, is it going to create an opportunity for me? If you can find that loophole, if you can find that something that I'm having difficulty with right now is actually being sent to me by a creator or by the higher source, for me to find an opportunity of growth inside of it, then let me take advantage of the growth opportunity and not focus so much on the negativity. So when something is difficult for you, embrace it and say, what is the lesson I'm supposed to learn out of this? That immediately shifts your focus to change your perception from something negative into something positive. And then your perspective about how to deal with that will change as well. I think right now something comes to mind for me, and it works till now for me, no matter what the difficulty may face, no matter what it might be. The one thing I found for me personally, I don't know about everybody else, but it resonates with me so much, is that when I feel down, when I have the difficulties and you feel like the weight of the world is there, and you get to that point, and yes, empowerment specialists and everybody who does what I do also have this feeling. So that we don't, we do have the tests and we do get through them. It's because we trained and we know how to get through it that we do. And inshallah, we will train others to be the same. And that's the catalyst of everyone to have. But when that happens for you, uh, what do you do? Because I learned when it happens for me, I find that as soon as something bad goes wrong, and if I take a second and I say, okay, as much as this is bad, what can I still find gratitude with? And in that one little thing of gratitude that you find in the difficulty, and this is that opportunity thing I was talking about. When you try and find that little bit of positive, that gratitude when something is going wrong, the gratitude shifts your focus. Your focus and your whole demeanor of that negativity changes. And the best thing that happens for me and that I do to make myself feel better is always heal someone else. I just find when I heal or when I help somebody else, for some reason I heal myself in the process. It just works for me that way. So I just find that when I'm grateful, when I feel grateful about whatever it is that is around me, whether it's the smallest things or the biggest things, that gratitude shifts my focus from the negative to the positive. And I always try and train everyone, take a 2 minute a day, 2 minutes a day of your time. And it's really not much to ask. Take 2 minutes a day of your time and give gratitude for something. Make a list of 3 to 5 things every day that you are grateful for. That gratitude alone is going to help you change your perspective, change your analysis from whatever might be negative into something positive. And when that gratitude hits you, you realize that whatever the difficulties that I'm facing, whatever it is that's making me feel negative about me, is not actually that bad. It's actually a lesson for me to grow myself. And when I grow me through it, I'm going to give off and I'm going to heal. And when I give off, I'm going to give to myself and I'm going to give to my immediate loved ones, my children, my spouse, my parents, my family. They're all going to benefit the best from me because of this difficulty. So the way you approach it, the way you perceive it, the way you have your perspectives altered if they need to be altered is so crucial for you to be able to grow yourself. Um, that is why I say the perspective that you have and the perceptions you have are true links to you gaining self-empowerment and developing yourself even further. Um, there's a quote I want to just end off with at the moment, and some people don't resonate with it because they find that it's not a very nice kosher quote to have. But for me, the quote speaks the volumes if you really think about it in depth, and it's very simple. It just says that we're all in a gutter. All of us are in a gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars. We're all in a gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars. And if you have to think about that quote deeply, and if you resonate with that quote deeply, you'll understand that no matter what the difficulty you're in, how bad the gutter may feel, it's how you're viewing things from that gutter that will make you grow from it. So some that are sitting in this gutter format and this gutter of life, or the difficulties that you might feel that way, you look up at the stars, and then your vision becomes your goal. If you're somebody who's going to focus only on where you're at and look around you on the flat surface that this is the gutter and I'm not happy with it, this is where you're going to not want to grow from. It's going to bring you down and furthermore down. So if you're going to change your perspective from where you're at and think, I am in the gutter, yes, but I'm looking up at the stars, you're valuing, you're giving gratitude, and you're healing. And when you do those three things for yourself, you automatically change your perspective on things. Your perspective on life changes, and your perception about life changes. And ultimately, remember, the whole idea of empowering you, especially as a woman, is to empower those around you. And when you empower yourself and you grow yourself and you develop yourself, that gives off a specific kind of aura from you that is beautiful, and it resonates with those around you. Once it goes out to others, they then feel and they sense, and from there it goes to others. And I always say, for me, for example, if I can change one family for the betterment, that family can then have the catalyst effect to change their community. That community can then change their society. That society can change a nation. And that's where it starts from. It can start with you, and there's no way that you can say, it's only me, so I don't really have to, I don't have an impact. Only one person can have that impact, because that only one person has only one life, which is yours. And you can make the best of it by being the best for you, for yourself. Thank you for your time. And I hope that I managed to give off some message that really resonates with you, that you can take back with you. I do see some comments coming through. I will probably read them as I get through it. But if you have any questions now, I'm more than willing to take them. Yes, yes, please, sanitize. Thank you, Sister Fozia. Radio, I'm so glad that you're here. Amina, you with me?
Yes, Amir, we'll hand over to Fathima Mohamed for the closing comments.
Sure.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, Fatima.
Yes, Mehreen, thank you so much for that beautiful talk. It's amazing how you so beautifully break down the thought process and you distinguish between your perspective and your perception. It actually allows us as individuals to clearly distinguish and actually apply our mind into the different situations. I think on behalf of all the listeners, I would just like to thank you, because I think we really need individuals like yourselves, because as females and as women, we always are in dynamic situations, and therefore we need that clear assistance and empowerment. And I think it's individuals like yourself that really help us women to really see life in a better way, and to also approach life in a much better way. Thank you once again, Mehreen.
No, thank you, Fatima. It really is a pleasure. I'm glad it resonated with you. And the goal now is that you take away some of these lessons and you then go and try and help others and yourself in the process, inshallah.